Resolution we have for today is that California should legalize online poker. Observation 1, racial analysis. Subpoint A, it's going to be a policy debate. Subpoint B, some terms. We're going to define online poker as a game of poker played on the internet, and legalize as in there will no longer be accounted for a law making it illegal. Very straightforward. Subpoint C is the plan text, is that California state government will legalize online poker. Part of the details of that plan tax is that 10% of the taxes made from online poker will go straight to for gambling addiction. And subpoint D and prevention. Subpoint D is the criteria is going to be net benefits. Any questions? No questions.
What's the time frame?
It's going to be starting immediately as they pass the law. It's going to go through its pass right now, and it's going to take effect.
Will it be a government agency that oversees the addiction treatment and the prevention programs?
They're going to be funding already currently standing preventions and gambling centers
and rehab
facilities. Plus, they'll make so much money that the government could build their own more infrastructure. Yeah. Observation 2 is going to be advantage number 1, economics. The subpoint A is the harms that currently California and overall, California plays a huge part of the United States economy, and overall is struggling as a whole. California needs help to improve their economy and jobs. According to The Guardian on January 2014 states that California needs another economic boost with more jobs and money flowing through revenue. And so, as we can see, money is always an issue for the United States, and any plan that can help provide another revenue to gain money is something you want to take into consideration. Subpoint B is the inherencies that California is missing out on a huge potential amount of money from online poker revenue, and this is something that they will never be able to get as a government as long as it's made illegal. So subpoint C is solvency. How we're going to solve this? Well, we're going to make it illegal. Very straightforward. Subpoint D's are impacts. We're going to increase the economy in California, and not just California, but for the United States overall as a whole. And on an average of $1 billion will be poured into California's economy within a decade if we make online poker legal. And this was a study done by the California Finance Director. Take you at the bottom of this. And so basically they're going to get lots of money from the taxes on the providers and the winnings of the players. And also the same study from the California Finance Director said that it's going to create 1,100 jobs will be created with the increase of infrastructure to support California's online poker. Things like ITs, engineers, and etc. And you had a question?
So this is $1 billion in tax revenue, not like generated income for like the state.
Yeah, $1 billion in
income, and then 10% of that is the tax.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's $1 billion in tax revenue. All right. So with that, we're gonna see those impacts happening. And so observation number 3, advantage number 2 is just addiction centers or addiction addicts. Subpoint A, the harm is that people are currently suffering from gambling addiction, and throughout all of the United States, in every state, California is one of them. Some people have mental issues that lead to these sufferings of gambling, and they like mental depression, and they spend their money unwisely to create financial instability, which can lead to other harms like family problems and issues, and families splitting up due to someone having a significant addiction to gambling. And subpoint B is that in the inherency is that there's not enough support financially to support for gambling addiction and prevention. Subpoint C is the solvency, is that our plan is going to spend 10% of the taxes made from gambling revenue directly to fighting gambling addiction and prevention, which is going to be a huge fight for the cause for the people currently already suffering in the status quo. And just to clarify, these people are suffering regardless whether gambling is legal or illegal. And so subpoint D is going to be the impacts. With our plan, it's a direct force to help fight gambling addiction and problems. And we're going to see organizations that are currently trying to prevent this and help ease the pain are going to have more funding to increase infrastructures, increase counseling, increase the type of tools and tactics they use to help prevent people from going down the dark path of being addicted to online gambling and gambling just in general. And so we're going to see people having an increase of financial stability and families being kept together, and people are helping their addiction go away, which will lead to helping their mental problems going away, like major depression and other mental issues. And so observation number 4, advantage number 3, what should we have on this?
Deregulate the internet.
Deregulating the internet. Subpoint A is that the internet is supposed to be free from government intervention and regulations, example like net neutrality and stuff like that. The inherency is that we currently have a law in California that says no online poker can happen, which is a huge regulation on the internet and the current status quo. Subpoint C is a policy that we take away this regulation on the internet, which is going to directly lead to deregulating the internet. The impact for this is that we're going to give California citizens their civil liberties and civil freedom to do what they want to do, which is they want to gamble online, and we're giving them essentially their freedom and liberties that should be guaranteed to them already. However, we have to pass this plan to give it to them, and we're going to make the government less involved in this regulation on the internet, which is going to help boost net neutrality because it's going to help increase the movement of getting the government out of internet regulations where it's not supposed to be in a harmful way.
So quick off-time roadmap. I'm going to go on off case, and then I'm going to come back on. So,
How many off case?
3.
Great.
Is everybody ready?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to start with odd case. Thanks everyone for being here, by the way. But I'm going to start with off case, and let's get right into this. So my disadvantage 1, you can tagline this: online gambling sites cannot be trusted. Subpoint A here is that the biggest 3 online gambling sites right now are PokerStars, Full Tilt Poker, and Absolute Poker. And all these companies are offshore, and they have the most infrastructure in place right now to start setting up online gambling and get people into California. So this is an offshore corporation coming out. But all these companies are currently under investigation by the DOJ for wire fraud and bank fraud and for money laundering because they can't be trusted. They're offshore, they don't follow the same rules that we would, and they're clearly doing criminal activities. They were also under investigation for promoting online gambling in the United States before it was legal. So then, like the second subpoint is that they trick people into spending more because they have like free demos that you can try that have bigger payouts and try and increase people's confidence, and which leads to more. Statistics show that people then bet more when they actually start playing for money. The B point here is that right now federal law is trying to keep them out of the state, and that would, I'll get you at the end of this point. The federal law keeps them out of the state, so unless this plan is passed, they are at least illegal and are being trying to be prevented. See, the plan opens up this foreign market to come in and swoop in onto the California economy and start taking advantage of people. So the impacts here are going to be money lost out of state, that the money is going to go out of state and even out of the country. So like we'll see later, you can cross-apply this to all their econ advantages of like the state getting more money because they're out of state, they're out of offshore companies actually doing this. Then a decrease in California economy because there'll be less money coming into California and more going out. And then this is just less financial security because it's tricking people, it's getting more people into online poker. Yes, Lasai?
I was raising my hand because Joe had a question. You
Joe?
Yeah, so you noted that 3 of these companies, among hundreds of them, are under investigation. Have there been any actual indictments?
I'm not sure, but these are the big 3, so the biggest 3 companies are under these things, and yeah. So
The FBI wouldn't be involved if it wasn't something.
yeah, the FBI wouldn't be involved unless they were actually doing illegal activities. Okay, so you can then let's go on to disadvantage 2, and you can title this "Slots for Tots." The A point here is that Jeffrey Devin Rensky, a professor of applied child psychology at McGill University, says that young people are most at risk for being addicted to online forms of gambling. Because they have like these kind of child gambling simulators that have like Disney princesses and kind of colorful monsters that teach you how to gamble, and this hooks kids in, and they're purportedly free. But then, what you can see is that like people who have access to credit cards or who have apps on their phone or like have their iTunes account linked to it can start gambling online and will start using a lot of money. So, and these are children who are going to become addicted to gambling because of this, because they see their toys and they're like these kind of images they're used to, saying that gambling is okay. They're more used to technology than adults, so they probably know more about their iPhones and more about how to do this than adult people. So these are millennials who are really at risk of developing gambling addictions, like spending a lot of money. We've all heard the story of like the children who spent like $500 on a Candy Crush app because they bought all the power-ups, or this is just going to happen, but it's going to be 10 times worse because it's going to be with gambling, and it's going to be with people who are actively trying to steal money from you, and it's going to be these poker stars, Full Tilt Poker and Absolute, who are doing illegal things and are under investigation for all sorts of financial crimes. So, like this professor said, Jeffrey Devin Rensky, that children are going to increase. So the impacts here is increase in child like a gambling addiction. This is going to decrease the family because it's going to cause more financial hardship, and that's what most families fight about. And it's going to, maybe rip families apart. So all their advantages about like building families together of online poker, you can cross apply that too, because it just it doesn't apply because more kids are going to start online gambling. Okay, so now for a counter plan. We are going to say in California, legislator legalizes in-person gambling, so they can create casinos and like the Las Vegas formula where you build casinos, and we'll do the same 10% of the money will go to like to fight gambling addiction. And yes, Lasai?
So right now, today, I can't go to Django and gamble right now.
You can on an Indian reservation, but this will be throughout the state. And it will be immediately, and we'll tax it just as heavily, and it will pay for itself. So, like, normal means will cover it for a point, and then it will really increase the economy. It will do that $1 billion they said, and those 1,100 jobs, and then some, because it's construction jobs, building casinos. It's everybody who has to physically work there. We get all those advantages. So those are the net benefits of that plan. Legalize in-person gambling, and it avoids the DAs because they actually checking to make sure children can't gamble. They're more trusted because you can't like manipulate stats and figures online. You have to deal like with how the cards fall. So let's get on to their on case. So they're AD1 of econ. Like I already said, the biggest 3 companies, which they call the big 3 for poker, offshore. So this isn't going to help California's economy. It's in fact going to decrease California's economy because it's more money getting shipped overseas. So really, there's no thing here. But then also there's no solvency because they can't even do this if they wanted to. They said the California state legislature would be the ones to pass this law that lets gambling be illegal. But there's a federal law called the Unlawful Internet Gambling Act that California state legislature has no power over. So even if you believe that what they say that their gambling websites are going to be startups in Silicon Valley, it's not, because it's currently illegal, so you're forcing the companies to be offshore in the first place because federally it's illegal, so they can't even do it if they wanted to. Now let's go to the, I can't take you right now, I'm in protected time. 82 of addiction centers. This is not going to help because more children are going to be doing this, and they don't know about like addiction centers. They don't even really know what addiction is. They don't understand it. So you're going to have more kids being addicted, and then with our counter plan, we give the same 10%. So all you're going to see is an increase in children being, for their plan of going like become gambling addicts, and but our plan will do the same advantages they have. And then finally, for the advantage 3 of deregulate the internet, this won't help net neutrality because we want the internet to be regulated so companies like Netflix can't just make fast lanes for their people, or Time Warner Cable can't make shady deals. So all of this is why I urge you to vote for the opposition today. Thank you.
Off-time roadmap. Same order. DA1, DA2, counterplan, pace. Because we think that the internet should be deregulated from government intervention and that we should fight and prevent addiction and that the California economy is important, that's why we're proposing today. First, let's get to off case. Disadvantage 1. Tagline: online gambling cannot be trusted. They talk about 3 companies that they say are the biggest that are all under investigation for fraud. My first response is there have been no charges filed. They might come up here and say, well, the FBI wouldn't be involved unless there was wrongdoing. That's just not true. That's saying that someone is guilty before the trial has even taken place, so you're not going to want to be giving into that. The FBI is just there to see, is there any wrongdoing? So far, there is not. So don't let them scare the judge into believing that these are really, really bad institutions. Further, my second response is that there are hundreds of online poker sites and only 3 of them are under observation. That means the large majority of them are totally fine and the FBI says we don't need to look at them. So if that's the case, the FBI could rule that, okay, these 3 might have to go, but there's still hundreds more. Yeah.
So do you know what the most popular sites and what has like the most infrastructure to set up right now is? No, it's like user base.
Probably the top 3 that you mentioned, but if those get shut down, they'll get, people who play poker will go to the other ones. So let's get to the impacts. First, they say money will be lost out of state. My response is that's what's happening right now. This is really key in this debate. Other states have legalized online poker, and so Californians are now using or trying to use those states so that the money that California could be making goes to those states. So when they say that money is lost out of state, that's what's happening now. Our plan is to keep that money in state and tax it, and so that's why it's going to be helpful. Yeah, what's
one state that is legalized?
Nevada, Delaware, New Jersey. There's 3. Yeah. So again, I think it's important that the judge realizes that there are more than 3. I believe it's around 20 states that have actually done it. So turn that impact about money lost out of state. That's what's happening now. Our plan stops that when we say we legalize it and tax it for California revenue. Their second impact, decrease of the California economy. Again, turn that. That's what's happening now. When these other states are benefiting from people playing online poker and that tax money going to New Jersey, Delaware, etc., California is not able to do that because it's illegal here. So turn that economy impact. Their third one about an increase in addiction, you can turn that as well. And when you look at our advantage about how 10% of the tax revenue is actually going to be going to fund addiction prevention and rehabilitation centers. This is very similar to what Colorado did when they legalized marijuana, is that they earmarked some of the tax revenue to go to schools and drug prevention centers so that you can combat the issue while realizing that it's very important that people who are going to be addicted are going to be addicted anyway. And we have to try to combat that problem. But by making it illegal, that doesn't mean that people don't do it. It just means that there isn't as much transparency. in the states that have legalized it, there's been no increase in gambling addiction, at least in all of the literature that we read, and there have been really no negatives. But what we were reading is that they've actually experienced a lot of increase in tax revenue, which is it's simply like we've seen with Colorado legalizing marijuana. So their second disadvantage about slots for tots, it's an interesting name. But look, I have 4 responses. My first one is that there are rules on these sites that say you have to be 18 or older. My second response is that this is non-unique. If children are going to do this, then they're going to do this anyway. This happens on like online games like World of Warcraft where parents steal their cards. This is going to happen anyway. My third response is that they said that these children know more about technology, which means they're less likely to be tricked by these companies. That they're saying, oh, they offer this, but you don't know this. My fourth response is that parents know to protect their credit cards. This is an issue about parents protecting their financial information. My fifth response is that I've never heard of one case where a family goes bankrupt like they talk about because their child steals their credit card. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're saying that children, just because they're able to use phones better than adults, that they have better critical thinking skills or are able to like
no, I'm not making it.
Judgment.
You said they know more about tech, so that means they're more aware of how to use the internet. So let's drop to the impact level. First, they say that it's going to increase gambling addiction. My first response is it's non-unique. It's either not going to change the amount of gambling addiction or turn it, and it's going to help it because our plan actually includes revenue to go to helping addiction and rehabilitation. Their second response is that this is going to decrease the family. Again, turn this. They have no example of any time where a child has bankrupted a family. And in many cases, the banks or credit card companies will realize that the child made a mistake and will reimburse the family. So there really aren't any important impacts there, and if they are, they're turned. Now let's get to counterplan. They say that California legalizes in-person gambling. My first response is perm. They've never had any point about competition. There's no reason we can't legalize online poker and gambling in person. Absolutely no reason. They provided us with no competition. So therefore, we can perm this. But secondly, I'm still going to make arguments against the counterclaims just in case you don't like the perm. Where they say make sure that no children and avoids all of that. First, kids use fake IDs. They do this all the time to gamble. I mean, I know people that did it. My second response is that they say that these in-person casinos are a lot more reliable. In-person casinos are notorious for cooking the books and not being transparent about what they're doing and for exploiting people. Yeah, what's up?
So you're saying like a 12-year-old with their parents' credit card could walk into a in-person casino and start gambling?
No, but I'm saying like a 14 or 15-year-old could get a fake ID. And whether or not it's legal or not, that 13-year-old, if they like online poker, is going to do it anyway. So now let's get to case. First, let's look at, I think econ and state revenue is one of the big points of this debate where they say it's going to decrease it, and we're saying it's absolutely going to increase it. And we have warrants. When Lasai tells you that the California Finance Association basically says, look, if we legalize online poker, we're looking at $1 billion in revenue over the next 10 years, as well as 1,100 jobs. Who are you going to trust? The opposition team who says that that's just not true, or the California finance minister? And also, when you look at that other states have legalized it and they're gaining more revenue, just like Colorado legalizing marijuana, it makes perfect sense that this is going to increase revenue. So in response to their return it, our plan absolutely increases econ. Next, and increases jobs. But also, it's really important, too, to realize that California can really use this money, for example, to lead the country in, renewable energy. So, we need this money to help the country do really important things. Also, we'll be using it to fund addiction and rehab facilities. Yeah.
Is there any way...
Sorry, I'm in protected time, actually. My apologies. Advantage 2, let's look at how we prevent and fight addiction, where also is where this debate hinges. Their plan doesn't do any... they like what our plan does in fighting addiction, so that's why they're picking it, essentially. So you can basically flow across our advantage to that we do fight addiction. Their only turn is that ours is going to lead to more kids addicted, and my response is, again, that's non-unique. They're, first of all, they're probably not going to be addicted. Kids being gambling addicts is not something that anybody really is concerned with. Stealing parents' financial information, things like that, okay. But more kids are not going to be addicted. It's non-unique. It's going to be the same amount of kids. So flow these impacts across of increasing prevention and increasing family stability by increasing their financial ability, and if they're not, if someone in the family is not addicted to online gambling, And then finally, our advantage of deregulating the internet. It's important that the net remains a place where users are free to express their ideas and thoughts and do activities that they can do in public, that are legal in public, that they should be able to do them online and not be limited by government intervention. So we're happy to propose.
Sorry, I'm just getting my timer set up here. Off-time roadmap. I'd like to. I think I'll go the same order. Keep the same off case first, then go to counter plan, and then back to
Matt?
No.
I'm here. He's your teacher.
Oh well.
Probably Matt Bolts.
Yeah.
In there.
Can I go?
Just knock first.
Okay, so get started. All right, so
I'll get a roadmap first.
I just said it, but I'm starting off case and going on case. So off case. First with the DA. One with online. Okay, yeah, it can't be trusted. We'll go to a few of the responses that were brought up here. So the first is that there were no charges filed by the FBI. However, the FBI has currently stopped these people's ability in the United States to be running their online gambling centers, and so they have taken action against these companies. And so even if they're not necessarily convicted of something, and they're a foreign company anyway, so it'd be really troublesome to try to convict them of something under U.S. law when these are other countries that are involved. It's much more complicated. Essentially, these people are under investigation for wire fraud, bank fraud, and money laundering. And if the FBI is tracing these people, you can belittle their investigations meaning anything. However, I take the FBI's assertions of this and the news articles saying these things to be an actual statement that something is happening. I'll take your question.
If one bank were to do something that was shady, does that mean that we should just say banks are bad and do away with them?
No, but if the top three are consistently being bad, that
Then
means
we
there's
should
something
do away
wrong
with all
the system.
banks.
I wouldn't say that, no. But
Okay.
you're not understanding my point. So the second point I'd like to make is that with regards to the hundreds of online sites, these people are the long tail, meaning there's lots of little guys who have maybe a few dozen people involved. These are not huge societal issues, like a couple dozen people gambling. We're talking about the people where it's thousands of people's gambling, or even closer upwards of tens of thousands of people on one site, in a shady system that the FBI is currently investigating. So these are bigger problems we're trying to tackle here. All their 100 guys, they may be small and insignificant now, but like you said, they might grow, and so they could become the problem. So don't belittle these hundreds, but we are trying to focus on the big problem here. Moving on to responses to some of the impacts that happened in this DA. You're saying it's already happening, that other states have legalized. I am curious if that means that these other states are simply allowing foreign agents to come in and work and operate in their state. Because based on our understanding of this federal law, the Unlawful Internet Gambling Enforcement Act of 2006, it explicitly prohibits gambling businesses from knowingly accepting payments from participants that on gambling sites that involve the internet. And so, under any reasonable interpretation of this law, it's illegal to start a online gambling business in the United States. And so these must be foreign agents that are operating in these states that have decided to legalize online gambling. And so that also has an effect on our other disadvantage, which is the loss of the California economy, because this money necessarily has to go to non-American businesses that's being generated by these websites. You can tax the revenue that comes from these things. However, the large majority of that money is going to foreign companies anyway, so it's a net negative for the money being transferred in this situation. And so the state will end up losing money, even if it's gaining a little bit from some tax revenue they inject in the way there. I'll get to you as soon as we're done with the other two, and then I'll get right back to you. And so you say it's already happening. However, it could already be happening if they're losing money, even if they gain some from this tax revenue they're saying. And the 10% going to addiction centers, we like that, so that's why we included in our plan. Yeah, I'll get to it really quick.
Yeah, so you say it's a net negative, but how are they losing any money if right now they can't get any tax revenue from it, and then our plan allows them to get tax revenue from it?
Oh, because like money is still leaving the state. Anyway, our counter plan does deal with that. And so the next with the slots for tots. So there's rules for sites if children are going to do this. Children break the age limit all the time. It's not really an effective thing. However, it's not really a big issue here.
Facebook has
They're less likely to be tricked if they know more through the internet. Children are always susceptible, and people in general are susceptible to being tricked online, which goes back to our first claim that was brought up in our statistic that these gambling sites are known to have these like beginning rounds where people don't spend any money, but they're learning how to use the site, and they increase the winnings 39% in these rounds, which increases the people's confidence, and that leads them to bet a lot more money with this inflated sense of confidence that they've gained in these early trial runs. And so people are being tricked, and it's a big issue, and these tactics are known to exist, and you can't prevent that online. And that's the hard thing, because you can fake chance on the internet, whereas with like actual casinos, our plan using like in-person casinos, like it's whatever the cards are, and so like you can't fake that. And if they are, then like there's a huge issue happening, and people are going to be susceptible to this. And so it's yeah. And so I'm going to move on now to the counter plan. You say there's no competition. I suppose that you could legalize both online gambling and gambling in person. However, there are still a ton of disadvantages attached to your plan, as it gives or it sanctions these foreign companies from draining the California economy by unless you're taxing it 100% and then getting all the money that's going out. There's still money leaving the country because these other companies are operating in other states, and so that money's not going to Americans. And so you're draining the economy.
also redundant.
It's also redundant to be gambling or to be legalizing both these things. Kids using fake IDs a lot harder to fake, or it's a lot easier to fake your age on a website than it is actually in an institution where we can find them, take away their licenses. Like in Vegas, if someone is breaking the age limit thing, we could shut down that offender to this issue. In your system, online sites, like you say, pop up all the time, and so you're going to have this continuous stream of people that are just going to like break the rules fast and loose, make a new site, and then it's going to be this endless cycle. Whereas with like in building casinos, it takes investment, it takes people being established, and it takes people having a reputation that we could shut down if they break the laws that we set up in an in-person, like a brick and mortar casino type of scenario. If it's a really quick question, I'll take one of them.
So how do you think that like Native Americans are going to respond when one of their sovereign laws was that they can build casinos, and now we're saying, well, no, now that that's not sovereign, we can do it.
That's outside the frame of this debate. Actually, we're just talking about the merits of online gambling, but we can talk about offline gambling in a separate debate. I actually encourage that. So moving on now to case with advantage one for econ. You say that it's going to be huge California or boost to the California economy. However, cross-apply those disadvantages I applied, that these are actually foreign companies operating in these states that have legalized this. They can't go against the federal law necessarily, and so these foreign companies are actually draining these economies. They may gain some like temporary tax revenue from these programs, where like they're tapping in like previously untapped source. However, in total, more money is leaving the state than is going back to the state government. And so you say this money could be used for renewable energy. However, your plan says that you're going to be using this for these addiction programs. And so, which would you rather do? More renewable energy? That's fine. That's great. Let's keep doing that. Advantage number two: addiction. Oh, you dropped our source. I'm sorry, our guy. He was talking about that, but I don't have time to get into that. But basically, that was dropped of his assertions that children are more likely to actually be gambling. He's the person who studied this. And so more people will be addicted under this. And then with the deregulating the internet, we do want regulation because crime is a bad thing and should be stopped. Thank you.
Okay, for a quick roadmap, I'm just going to do voters.
Okay.
So my first voter today is going to be plan versus counter plan. With their plan, you have these untrustworthy sources that the FBI is investigating for really heinous crimes. They're also known to try and boost your confidence and trick you. They never responded to our 39% increase in win outs for free trials, and then taking that down once real games start. That was completely dropped. So you can just flow that across that they're, which just proves that these online gambling companies can't be trusted, and that they're, trying to take advantage of people. Then you also see that kids have more access to online gambling, like iPhone apps or whatever. They're more likely to trick themselves. It's so much easier to just click the box that says, "Yeah, I'm 18," than it is to go to a casino with a fake ID with your braces and pimples and try and convince people that you're 21 and that you should be allowed to be gambling. So just that's their plan. In our counter plan, we have a real life casino with real life people who are going to be able to tell physically that yes, you are the right age to be doing this, or they might be tricked by those old-looking 17-year-olds, but there's sure a lot less of them than the 12-year-olds who have access to credit cards or just their parents, information like that. So you can look at that source, and that you can't mess with a deck of cards. You can't control how the cards flip. The odds are always for the casino, but in online versus real gambling, online can put whatever data they want into an algorithm.
Putting new data in an online algorithm is a new argument.
We were saying, my partner Christian just brought up in his last speech that you can that a real deck of cards can't be messed with, and that you can change the statistics of it, and I was just making it more colorful.
I'm okay with it. Go on.
Okay. Okay, so you can't mess with a physical deck of cards, but you can trick people like these companies or want to do. That's why the payouts are bigger on online demos, and then they're smaller in real life. And it's just to boost people's confidence. So when you look at just straight plan versus counter plan of net benefits, I think we're winning. And then I want you again to look at my second voter, which is the California economy. Our plan keeps all the money in state. All the money is going to be building real-life casinos, putting up the neon, putting up the big glass towers, doing all that. Their money can be by anybody.
This is a new argument that their counter plan includes building casinos. They said that they were just going to make it legal to play poker in person.
He said brick and mortar. In my first speech, I was like, they have to actually build them. There's going to be more jobs than your guys's. I said this, so
I have it.
again, just more colorful. Okay,
You're
so I'm
good.
going to
I have
start
that one.
time again. Okay, so yeah, so you get these actual physical buildings. So there's more jobs with our plan, just better, and you don't have the same trickery. They said that that their plan only gives 1,100 jobs, but we'll have significantly more than that with our brick and mortar casinos, like my partner said. Then the next voter is addiction centers. We're actually going to probably raise, we both have these same advantages, except we're keeping children from being addicted. Like we've been saying this whole debate, iPhone apps are easier to get. They never responded to our Jeffrey Krasinski, or let me look up his name right now, or Jeffrey Devensky, that children are more susceptible to being tricked online. They never responded to our Disney-themed online poker tutorials to hook kids onto gambling. So you can see all this, that ours doesn't affect children nearly the same amount as theirs will, because they're incentivizing children to go onto these sites that look like Candy Crush. And then finally, they want to also deregulate the internet, which is the main problem with net neutrality. Our regulation of the internet still catches more bad guys and allows a fair internet service. That's why net neutrality is important. Thank you.
Okay, for roadmap, I'm going to go over the new block on off case, and then on case, and then voters. Okay, so for the first off case, they talk about how that we completely can't trust these big three. They keep mentioning only 3 sites that are being under lawsuits or being. They have no lawsuits and no indictment under them. They have no charges filed against them. They're innocent until proven guilty, and they have not been proven guilty yet. So there's no reason not to trust these sites. The FBI filed lawsuits on all businesses avenues, like all over, like the Wall Street. However, people still go to the Wall Street all the time, and the reason why they said that the FBI tried to stop them from their services, because obviously there's states where it's illegal to do online gambling, like California. Like they mentioned in their speech that these were trying to tap into California's online gambling. However, of course, they're going to try to stop them if it's illegal. But if it's not illegal, they no longer have any reason to try to stop them. And so they said that we're going to lose all this money. However, it's not true. When the California Finance Director says that we're going to get $1 billion of direct taxes from online poker, that means we're going to get those taxes. And we've seen this happen with all the other states that made online poker illegal, like Delaware, New Jersey, and Nevada. So we see that the money wasn't lost out of state, the money's kept in the state. And when they talk about the young people at risk, they look to the flow where my partner mentions how the states that made online poker legal, like Delaware, did not increase any spikes of addiction. They completely dropped this argument. So when you see that on the flow and me expanding this, our plan does not increase any addiction that currently happens at all, and they dropped it. So they cannot say anything about this. This is the golden turn. This is a true thing about our plan. Our plan does not increase any addiction at all. So increasing child addiction on their impact does not happen at all. Our plan just helps solve for these kids already currently suffering from this addiction to gambling because of all the taxes we're going to generate from this. So, and now on case, when we talk about our economic issues, we talked about how they basically this cross apply, how they just said that, or they just don't even really France says that it doesn't not going to help the economy. It's that all the money is going to go out of state because the companies are offshore. However, I mentioned how that California gets to now tax the people in California of their winnings from these online poker sites, and that's money going directly into California's economy. And also, just what's the increase of infrastructure for California's online poker is going to create 1,100 jobs, and so that's money going straight into California's economy. So we definitely get solvencies from our economic impacts, just like how Nevada, Delaware, and New Jersey has benefited from online poker being legal. And so the addiction center, they mentioned how that, well, it's going to increase child addiction. However, again, you could cross-apply that they dropped how multiple states had made online poker legal and did not increase any spike of addiction. So when they drop that, they have no argument against our plan causing any addiction. It only helps for the people already currently suffering from their gambling addiction problems with all the money going to the services and finances. So, and for the current plan, it's a complete easy perm, or actually, I'm going to get to my voters.
Yeah, that's
Voters number 1 is the perm. We're going to pass our plan to make California online poker legal and make in-person gambling, whatever the plan text was, legal. And they
said they could.
They didn't provide any competition, and they even said, yeah, you can permit. So obviously we're going to perm. So now we get their whole advantage of whatever it was, all this obviously. All right, so voter number 2. Our plan boosts California and United States economy with adding $1 billion of direct taxes from online poker and creating over 1,000 jobs, stated by the California Finance Director, and empirical evidence of other states showing that this is true. We get full access to this because their arguments are just not going to are not going to happen. And voter number 3 is that our taxes are going to help fight addiction and prevention to the people currently suffering. So we're going to see an increase of financial stability, a decrease in mental issues and problems that are correlated with online gambling. And just clarify that we talked about how that states made online poker legal and didn't increase any overall spike of addiction. So we see that our plan doesn't increase addiction; it only helps to decrease addiction. So the overall framing of this debate, you're going to vote for a plan that boosts the economy, fights addiction, and creates jobs and financial stability.